We're here with Neal Crook, who's brought some really beautiful Nascoms with him today. Talk us through these, Neal.
Okay, sure. So this is the original Nascom computer from 1977. This machine, when it was originally kitted, it would have had a 1K debug monitor. It's got 2K of memory on it. 1K is devoted to the TV memory, the video, and the other 1K is there for your user program. When this machine was originally made, it was quite novel in having a TV display and a proper keyboard. Most of the contemporary machines at that time, they had a LED display and a little hex keypad, something like that.
Yeah.
So who would buy this machine? You couldn't really do anything with it. It had less than a K of memory. All you could really do was to use it as a way of figuring out what a computer was, to teach yourself assembler, to write code, to write machine code programs and type them in hex and slowly and painfully debug them, try and figure out what Z80 assembler language was. So a couple of years later, Nascom came out with another board. This is yours, actually.
It is mine.
So this was the Nascom 2. So this machine had a proper buffered bus, so you could plug it. You could plug this into a backplane and expand it with additional cards. It also had 8K ROM basic on board, and it had a lot of sockets for more memory, so you could actually power this up and do something a bit more useful with it right off the bat. And then this is my lockdown project. This is a Nascom reimagined for the 21st century. I call this Nascom 4. This has got all the same hardware in as my old machine here, and this machine has got an FPGA here that implements the video circuitry for the Nascom and the Z80 CPU, and it's got a set of buffers to do a level shift to 5 volts, and then it's got a Z80 bus with a Z80 PIO, floppy disk controller and counter timer. You can do everything on here that you could do on a real Nascom, except now it drives a VGA monitor instead of an old TV screen, and you can control it from a PS2 keyboard, or if you've got a Nascom keyboard, you can plug it onto the connectors there.
This is a problem, isn't it? There's more Nascoms than there are Nascom keyboards.
There are more Nascoms than there are Nascom keyboards, yes. So this machine is my machine that I built when I was a teenager. My father was a sheet metal work engineer, and he helped me make the case for it. It's originally it started off as a Nascom 2 with a memory expansion card and a cassette recorder for saving, loading programs. And as time went by and I got a little bit more money and saved up some more money, I eventually migrated to having a floppy disk video controller, which is this card in the top. So the cassette recorder fortunately went out of use and was not lamented. And then on here I've got a few miscellaneous boards that I've developed over the years to make the Nascom a little bit more usable these days. So on this Nascom 1, there's a 64K expansion memory board there, and this board here is an SD card controller which connects to the serial interface and also to the parallel interface, and with this card you can load and save your cassette programs and they get stored on SD card, and you can also boot a disk operating system and put disk images on the SD card and pass the data backwards and forwards through the PIO on that connector there.
Brilliant stuff. I mean, one thing I always think's amazing with Nascoms is, for instance, well, they came like this, so the Nascom 2 came like this just as a kit.
Correct.
And it cost X amount of money. How much was it for the Nascom 2?
It was like £297 plus VAT for Nascom 2.
And to buy the proper case for it, how much was that again?
Oh, I don't know, because for many years there weren't any proper cases. There were a few cases you could buy that were like general purpose cases.
Yeah.
And you could fit a Nascom in and you had to cut the keyboard hole yourself and things like that. So mostly, as you know, as you walk around them, if you look at the Nascoms in the museum, you'll see that a lot of them are in homemade wooden cases, are made
Yes.
out of plywood, or they're like your machine.
I was just
where
going to say this. If we
someone's-
look at this case that Neil's dad made,
Yeah.
it is amazing. And this is the
this
keyboard
was the
for
sort
my
of-
own Nascom too.
the alternative approach with
I
a bit
did
of
not make
chipboard.
this, just to be clear, but I am not changing it because it's just brilliant. If we look at the side there, it's even got the wedge shape, which
Yeah.
I love. But at the same time, what would you rather have, that or a dad like Neil's?
Yes, I do have a matching floppy disk box that goes with this with the same paint finish, but it's a bit too heavy to lug
I
around.
can imagine.
Maybe I should bring it next year because it does look good next to this machine. But yeah, floppy disks, 5¼ inch floppy disks, they're kind of exciting and nostalgic for a while, and then they retry a few times and you realise you're better off with an SD card, really.
Yeah, I can imagine this SD card is a game changer for the Nascoms, isn't it? It really is. But no, that's brilliant, Neil. Thanks ever so much for bringing them along.
Sure.
And
Yep.
see you soon, mate. Thank you. Cheers. Look at all these lovely Acorn systems here, and here to showcase them is Chris Oddy. How are you doing, Chris?
Right.
Great to have you here. So, talk to us about these machines.
Well, the first machine to show you is this is an Acorn System 1. This is where it all started. This was one that I purchased back in 1979.
Incredible.
It's a nice, simple little machine. 2 cards. One's a processor. One is the cassette interface, display, and keyboard. This is a replica. The Acorns progressed that to putting it into a rack. So this is the Acorn System 2.
Yep.
So this card here is the same one that's in the System 1. That's the cassette interface. They then added a video card and some memory cards and an interface card. And that gives you a rack-based system which is intended to be used in sort of a laboratory environment. It wasn't really intended for the hobbyist or the home use.
Sure.
They took that and put it inside a plastic box and called it an atom.
Oh, okay. So that's where
So
that was the
that's pretty much
origins
what the
of it.
Atom
Yeah.
is.
Got ya.
Slightly different video, but that's the consumer version of the System 2.
Yeah.
They then wanted to add disk drives to the System 2, and that becomes the System 3, which is this one. That should be a big, chunky 5-inch
Yes.
floppy
Yeah.
drive in there, but that's got a GoTech and a 3.5-inch drive.
So, is this still running off the card from the System 1?
The same processor card, yeah.
So essentially, if you had a System 1, you could take the processor
keep
card out
growing
and
it.
just keep upgrading,
Grow it from a 2 into a
upgrading.
3, yep. And then they also had a System 4,
Right.
which was a double height machine, basically because you run out of slots. Because this one had a 5-inch drive in here, of
course,
you
yeah,
only
yeah.
had about 4 or 5 slots.
Yes.
So this one, you've got the full width of the machine to put cards into, and it would have had 2 5-inch drives.
Right.
What I've done here is I've put a modern LCD screen in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very,
Good
very
choice.
convenient.
Does that mean it's a portable now, though?
It's a laptop.
Is it a laptop in effect? Yeah.
All those machines are 1 meg 6502 processors.
Yep.
They then moved on to the System 5, which is a 2 meg processor. And what's interesting about that is that the plans were to replace or upgrade the Atom to a Proton.
Okay,
Call it
yeah.
a Proton. And that was going to be the basis of the Proton.
Right.
And I believe the museum has a Proton prototype.
Yeah, which
It
is
used to be in the cafe, but it's not there at the moment.
yeah. It's in the cash store at the moment, and it's
Yeah.
It's basically because the Proton was almost like the prototype of the Bee
Exactly,
itself.
yep.
So the
was.
prototype of the Proton is like the prototype of the prototype of the
Yep.
BBC.
That's right. The Proton never happened.
Yes.
Because the BBC took it over,
Yep.
and yeah, Acorn went massive after
Yeah,
that.
exactly, yeah, of course.
At that point, they actually, because the BBC took over their business, they stopped doing the Eurocard
Right.
systems, and I think that business got passed on to Control Universal, who were a company who were already producing compatible cards for industrial use. So that was the end of the Eurocards, and yeah, went off to BBCs, Masters, etc.
Of course. Yeah.
At this end of the table, we're going back in time, really. So this is a replica Mark 14 computer, which was Sinclair's first venture into the computer world. What's interesting about that is that it was worked on by a certain Chris Curry, who then went on to form Acorn. Without that, maybe we wouldn't have had Acorn.
Yeah. Just to give a slight comparison between the two.
They're sort of similar.
Yeah.
The concept's the same.
You can see where it. Yeah, there is crossover.
But this is a completely different processor. This is a National Semiconductor's SCMP 8060 processor. Which I hate. It's got a really bizarre instruction set. Very, very hard to get your head around. This is a souped-up version of the Mark 14. The Mark 14 suffered a number of issues. One of them being it only had 4K of memory space, which is rather limiting. They had plans to expand it. There was going to be a video card for it, and a QWERTY keyboard, and then it would be running BASIC.
Oh wow!
They developed the video card, but the QWERTY keyboard and BASIC never arrived.
Oh, that's
because Sinclair went off ZX80.
Of course,
and this died and never went any further. This is what I've called the Mark 14E enhanced or expansion.
Oh, good job.
So it's a souped-up version of the Mark 14. It's able to address a full 64K of memory. It has a video card under here as well.
Let's get into it.
And a memory expansion card on top, which includes a version of BASIC called Nibble. National Semiconductors BASIC. That, at the moment, is intended to run talking to an old-fashioned teletype.
Oh,
so it's on a serial connector, and I've got it connected to a laptop over here, which, if I push the button, it's crashed. But that's running BASIC on that Mark 14 computer.
That's very impressive.
The next stage really is to modify the firmware on this machine so that BASIC can talk to a QWERTY keyboard and the VDU. Really nice. But that's quite a challenging project for somebody. Won't be me.
But the opportunity is out there. So anyone who's watching this video would like that opportunity. Exactly, Phil.
This is something completely different, although these machines are 8060 based, same as the Mark 14. This is a Softy 1 programmer. It's quite a bizarre machine. It's only got 1K of RAM, and it's got a video output. It's intended to connect to a television, but I've added a video output onto it. And on the screen, all you can see is the 1K of memory. And the idea is that you go in and change that to what you want it to be, and then you can put a chip in here and program it. Very noddy. What's nice about it is, though, it can program 2708 EEPROMs, which are 1K, quite old parts, but they need lots of extra supply rails. They don't just run on 5 volts.
I see.
There are not many programmers around that can program them. So it's quite a useful machine for that sort of retro stuff.
Definitely so.
After the Softy 1, they developed the Softy 2, which has a whole 2K of RAM, and it's an enhanced machine. I don't know a lot about this one yet. I've only just finished building this one in the last week.
I'll tell you what, if you reach into that box there, we've even got a we've got one in a case. This is a later one. The first one was beige. The box was beige with this keyboard in it. But then the sort of I don't think you can even call it a Mark II really, but it's anyway.
No, it's just a variant of it. Yes.
You can see echoes though of the Sinclair Z80, I think, in just the fact it's the vacuum formed case and it's it's got the keyboard attached to the motherboard, I suppose. And it's a nice little thing.
And what's interesting is Dataman developed these back in the mid-70s, and they're still going now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Incredible.
So they developed an S3 and an S4 after this, and they have a whole family of programmers that are still around now. So they've been around a long time.
Oh, that's brilliant.
These bits up here, I think this machine here is quite interesting.
Yep.
This is one of mine. This belongs to Owen. That is a predecessor to the Mark 14. So this is National Semiconductors sort of development system. I forgot what it's called.
Intro kit, I believe.
The intro kit, that's the one. And that's what the MK14 was based on. So Clive Sinclair basically, I say stole, he didn't because he was working with Nat
Yeah.
But they took that design and made it into something that they could sell as a hobbyist computer.
Took that into this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's incredibly, I've never seen these available.
No,
I've seen them, but
rare.
I've probably seen about 4 in my whole life. But no, that's amazing. Well, this is certainly one of my favourite tables. I haven't said that to everyone, honestly. But no, thanks ever so much, Chris, and hopefully we'll see you again at an event. Thank you, mate. Cheers. This is an absolutely beautiful table, in my opinion, and who is the person that bought all this? None other than...
Tim Gilberts.
Tim Gilberts. Hello, Tim, how are you?
I'm very good, yes. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm really good. So, well, I suppose you want me to tell you what we got on the table, do you?
I'd love that.
All right. Well, the theme is reproducing history for ethical hacking was the concept. The idea being that all of this electronics is getting really old. It's not going to last forever. And some of it is actually lost to time. So if we start on the end of the table, some of you may have seen this before. It's the Scrumpy, which is the 1976, the very first ever computer kit you could buy in the UK, pretty much, from Bywood Electronics. So it would not a lot of money, doesn't do a lot, requires a PMOS processor, I can power it up. Got addresses, and you got the data with a switch. So we've all seen switch type machines. Basically, you can, it's already running, should have turned it off. There we go, reset it back to address. You can basically load a bit of data into memory. You can single step it, or you can set it into run mode and run it at full speed and run through every address in memory. Can't do a lot more, a couple of I/O ports. Raspberry Pi of 1970s.
It's an entry level, it's something to get you going, yeah.
And really, for anyone who wanted to get into computing, it would have been an ideal machine.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was great. And I used this SCMP, the Simple Cost-Effective Microprocessor, because Nat Semi produced that, because the 8080, which we'll see in the moon, and the 6800, they were 120 quid, this was 20. That's why John Kilpatrick came up with this as a concept. Now that was used by Clive Sinclair and Chris Curry in the MK14, which this is a replica of, because they're like, the real one's going to cost you £800-900 to buy.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You can build a replica probably for about 400 if you really want to, or cheaper, scans of parts. Those who know about it originally had a graphics card as well. This is a modern reproduction of a graphics card for it. So it's got a memory expansion and a PIC chip emulating the graphics card, and allows people to play with the technology in a visceral form that they wouldn't be able to get with the real kit. So at the moment it's actually running some of the oldest software we know of for playing a game. It's running an adventure game.
Oh, wow.
Literally. So I've got 2 directions, 0 and 1, for something that's like this is a foot on the right, and if I go to the right, there we go, I'm around the bend. I'm going to go across the ford, or to the left. Well, I'll take the ford. That bends round to the right. I'm going to go across the ford again by pressing 0. I'm going to go right. And I'm going to go back across the ford. And the lion eats me.
Oh, no.
I lose. Okay.
That's amazing, though.
Yeah. So that ran on the original 512 bytes of memory.
But only 512 bytes. I mean, at the time, that's an incredible achievement.
It is, yeah. And it was published in Computing Today. We got a copy of it here somewhere. Yeah, January 1980, I think it was it? No, it wasn't. It was in that one, Computing Today, May 1979.
Oh, well, let's get a close-up of it, because I'm sure people can find this online.
They can indeed, and you'll need archive.org as well, because if you want to play it, you'll need the Compliment and Add newsletter from the MK14 user group, because they forgot to print the instructions, so they put it in. There we go. So you wouldn't know how to play it, even though you typed in all the hex codes. You wouldn't have a clue how to play it. So that's the MK14, which used the SCMP as well. We've also got hooked up to that a Raspberry Pi Typer unit. So if I select our Raspberry Pi, it's probably already on. So it's just a Raspberry Pi, and all it's doing, some opto isolators, safe to use on original. I'm going to use it to send another game over to the machine. So let's send Invader Hex, and the machine types it in as fast as it can.
Wow.
By just pressing the keys quickly. And that allows us then, once it's finished typing it in, if I change the screen over to the video input from the video card.
Oh, I see what you've done. Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. So you're basically typing it in as fast as it can do it.
Yeah.
And the joystick is rigged only just to simulate pressing keys 1, 2, and 3. So left and right are 1 and 3.
Of course, yeah.
But you know, the idea is it's a bit more stable than this keyboard.
Yeah.
So once that's done, it takes a little while to type it in because it's quite a lot of code because it's got 1.5K of memory expansion.
Okay, yeah.
But of course, you've got to use a third of that for the video graphics. So you know, it's memory map video. It's not a lot of space really, about the same as the ZX80, ZX81, and a chip that's lot limited. Right, it's finished loading.
There we go.
So I'll press reset. Now, at the moment, that's got the old program in the video. I go to address 400, which has got a C4 instruction. I hit go, and all of a sudden, we're playing Space Invaders.
Wow.
So
MK14 Invaders.
Yeah, this is actually an upgraded version. Last year we had Invaders, but we duly rigged a joystick last year and beat it. So the writer has upped it to 3 digits and made it harder this year, so that joystick wielding Invaders players can't beat it. So again, you could have run that on a contemporary sort of.
But Invaders on an MK14 is just.
And if you'd had that original MK14 full kit with the video card, you could have run this game.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? So, which moves on to another machine that I've got here, which was featured on the front of Electronics Today International, ETI Triton home computer, and inside was the very first issue of Computing Today magazine.
Hey.
It was a fold-in, and they presented this computer, which I wanted so badly. I really did. And they described how it all worked, and I started saving, but it was £300, and I was only 14 or 15. I couldn't build it. I didn't have the money. But I did start collecting some bits.
I didn't have £300 as a
No, I didn't either. I did as much paper round as I could. So, but really, I wanted one. And I started collecting the bits, including these capacitors, the Mullard C280s. They're beautiful.
Sorry, excuse me. Let me just move around the other side. Here we go.
They're a beautiful designer capacitor. I did start a bag of parts. And then in 2020, Dave Fry created this reproduction of the motherboard.
Right.
So I started building a Triton. And now I've got a Triton.
Wow.
And Ian in America has worked really hard on a keyboard reconstruction. Helped him out with an emulator because they're very hard to get hold of, the keyboards.
So this keyboard's new?
This is all brand new, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he manufactured. This is a George Risk keyboard simulation in the middle. So a centre board is a George Risk, a little extra panel for the key switches, and the EEPROM programmer, which was an expansion available for the Triton. And a modern expansion board at the back that gives you extra RAM and space for 2 EEPROMs that would have been giant cards full of 8 EEPROMs in the past.
Yeah.
Costing you quite a bit of money. So it's a fully specified machine running BASIC. It's actually just running the little I/O port BASIC at the moment. But we can press reset and go back to the operating system if we want. Fully featured, we could go into the assembler debugger, which has got full-on. We had to buy this; it was about £60 extra.
Amazing.
Oh, we can go back in and we can go to the EEPROM programmer, which would allow us to program our EEPROMs to put into our own machine. So it's a fully featured Triton reconstruction.
For anyone watching, I hadn't seen this machine up until now. I mean, I'd physically seen it, but not heard it spoken about. So I'm sort of. I've got to lift my jaw off the floor in a second.
It's a bonkers computer, isn't it?
It's
and you can get these boards still. It's a bit more of a. I mean, these replicas are great fun to build, but this is a fair bit of work.
Yes.
And the video chip, it's the same one used in the Apple One. So there's a lot of people looking for the video chip, and it can be a bit expensive to get your hands on.
Even the metal work alone's not going to be cheap, but you know, you did it, so that's a...
Well, the metalwork I had made locally, and this metalwork was done by Ian in America for me, because he's got one the same, so, you know, it can be done.
Saved me having to pay for it, so thanks. I appreciate that, Tim, I really do, you know?
Yeah, no, go away.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty much what we got. We got a couple of other odd items on there, and the sort of ultimate situation, Phil's brought along a couple of other MK14 kits. This is a useful little board that's available, saves you getting the specialist chips, lets you use a modern EEPROM and RAM chip to build an MK14 that's quite economic to build.
Yeah, that's good.
Without having to hold the special parts. It is actually absolutely.
Has that got the I/O on it as well?
No, it doesn't have the I/O, but we have been chatting about how we can do an I/O equivalent.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Lovely stuff.
What else we got here? Is Southern Cross as well, which is an Australian one.
Okay.
So that's quite a useful little Z80 based machine. They're all available to build. Unfortunately, I can't show you the Cara Norton beautiful box.
I'll tell you what though, I'll move around here because she made some
She did.
If anyone's interested, Google Karen Orton, Orton.
Yeah, and I've got a video on my channel as well that goes over this operating. It's basically a tape base to simulate the paper tape and a screen as a dumb terminal, which she built to interface a 110 board to a nibble, which is the industrial basic for SCMP.
Yes, yep.
So this, you basically run it as is. And this board has also been reproduced recently. You just use a modern terminal, and you can interface with the old basic that was available for the SCMP chip. So
good.
both, beautiful, but it's a lovely model to see running, well worth our device.
Karen was an incredibly amazing engineer in every level.
Well,
software,
on keyboard,
hardware.
all the physical construction work, everything meticulously done and beautifully done. Real loss to the community.
Yeah, very sadly passed away a few years ago, but she's not forgotten by
and I was lucky
means.
enough to secure all the computing machines, and I got a big collection of them. I was trying to take one along to every event.
Absolute legend.
Let people see them.
Absolute legend.
And obviously the final thing, next team wouldn't forgive me, this is the sort of ultimate of reproduction machines, isn't it?
Yes.
It's his ZX Spectrum Next, but it's one of the number 4 prototype.
Oh.
So it's the KS2 as it will be manufactured and is being shipped at the moment. And it can simulate just about any Spectrum model, the 48K, the 128K. It's its own machine as well. And again, this is the ultimate point we've got to get at. None of this electronics will be running in 100 years, 200 years.
Of course,
the chips will be failing, you can't get them. So an FPGA model of these machines is our ultimate goal, isn't it? It has to be, that'll survive forever because it's a description of the electronics.
Yeah.
So the ultimate replica has to be that, but it gives you still that physical, tactile experience of a machine.
Yeah.
And it feels like it.
Yeah, it's still got the heart and soul of it, yeah.
And it's such a popular machine now, it's even got clones.
Yeah, how funny is that? I know, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, people can have fun today building these replicas, and they're great fun to do, and scavenging the parts is fun. I'd recommend anyone who have a crack at it. You don't have to have thousands of pounds and really rare machines to experience them.
I completely endorse that as well. That is perfect. Right. Well, that's just amazing, Tim. Thanks ever so much for being there.
Pleasure.
And, as always, it's a pleasure to have you, mate. Thank you.
It's been fun. Thanks, mate.
We're here with Stephen, who's known online as Gedgehead.
Hi.
What have you bought for us today?
Right, well, we've got here is the Tiki 100.
Wow.
This is the computer that was designed for the Norwegian education system, a bit like the UK's BBC initiative for computers in schools. And they all, as was the thing at that time, all the European governments were deciding that they want their own machine. So the French developed their own, the Germans developed their own. So this is their answer to the BBC Micro. It's a CPM machine called KPM. It's not digital research as CPM. It's totally from the ground up written as KPM. So it's all Z80, not 8080 and Z80. So it's all there. It's 64K of RAM, 32K of video RAM, and originally a 4K EEPROM, which gave us the Tiki 100. And originally it was called the Tiki.
Okay.
And there was a guy called Thor Heyerdahl who went across the Pacific in a papyrus boat, retracing the Polynesians' trips.
Yes, yeah.
And he had the trademark for Kontiki and threatened to sue this company. Okay. So, as you can see here, everything was printed. Kontiki was printed on the packaging, it's on the circuit boards, everywhere.
Oh, really?
So they had to, a bit like the Airline Enterprise, where it turned into Flan.
Yes,
They had to marker it out, and all the boxes were scribbled on like that with a red cross through the con, and that's how they got away with it.
Incredible, I love that.
So it was purely for the education market. There was no commercial secondary market.
Oh, so
This
differs from the BBC in that respect, yeah.
Yes. No, so it's very difficult to get hold of because they were only available in primary schools because they wanted something nice and colourful with sound. So we've got AY sound chip.
Okay.
It's 256 colours, 16 colours. So it's lowest resolution. Then we've got high res, 2 colours, and then a 4 colour. Everything's bitmap graphics. What else is in there?
So, sorry, what year was this?
1984.
Oh, 84.
Yeah.
Because it's a lump of a machine
It
as
is.
well,
It
isn't
is. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Let's get a shot
It's a
round
real
the back
tank.
as well. Yeah, it looks like a beautiful.
So we've got a lovely Siemens keyboard, and this was, as you can see, in Norwegian, 1985. This was the only commercial game for it that I've discovered.
Yes, yeah.
I've got about 90 discs on this Go tape, and they're all dry maths. Well, you can learn Norwegian by reversing the maths, the English language
No, I see what you mean.
programs.
Yeah.
So we got maths, we got geography, and that's it. Just primary school, and that's the only market it went into. Behind you, we got the 380Z. There was something very, very similar to that was sold for the secondary schools that was supplied by a Swedish company, which I think was Scan Data or Scan, yeah, something like that. But that's what I'm trying to find now, so I can have a pair.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone's watching.
Yeah. Yep. Send emails to Pete.
Yeah, great stuff.
And that's it. It was. I discovered it at Demo Fest in 2016. There was a demo written for it. First demo scene production for the Tiki 100 in 2016, and that's why I discovered it. So I went onto Norwegian forums trying to find it. There's about 30 or 40 people on those, and it was really difficult to find. And about two years ago, so from 2016, 2 years ago, so 4 years, having to, I got an email saying, I've got 2 of these, would you like one? We'll do a swap. So it was a Technics mini disc player he wanted.
Really?
Because they were difficult to get over in Norway because of the tax system.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right, so I searched on eBay because I don't know anything about mini disc players, found the right number, and did a swap. So I sent this mini disc player over, and then a couple of weeks later, this arrived in the post.
Oh, lovely job. That's a great little story. Let's move on.
There we go. This is how I got how I got into retro computing. This monster
Beast of a machine.
Right. It's got curves everywhere. It really is.
I do
love it. I think I've got some kind of horrible.
It's a family YouTube channel. Remember?
So I went when I was at college. I was doing my A levels at college, and these were the terminals that I was sat behind.
Oh, okay.
It was a classroom full of BT 100s, and there were about 4 or 5 of these at the back of the room. And these were the only ones that we could save our stuff on discs, whereas it was on a Primos mainframe. And being why we were saving the stuff on disc, because we hardly had any of these at home. But it was one of those things, you need a backup just in case the mainframe went down. And then we could load in our stuff during our A levels. So I learned Pascal on that during my A levels, and it was a retro podcast when I started was about 2015, 2016. And it mentioned the Oric 1 over there, what Dolo has.
Dolo's one, yeah.
And I had a look at that listing and then looked at what else he had for sale, and it was a Super Brain.
Wow.
And I went, yep, I'm having that. And just brought so many good memories back to college, and I just bought it. From then on, I've got 5 now.
So this is the funny thing, you've probably now got more than the college had.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I just love them. They're a beast. They're a nightmare to repair because they're just
If you
all
got
the
to move
time.
it for a start.
Well, the working one. That's the favourite at the moment. Anyone that's working is all right because all the timings are just so critical, and they were on the edge because it was like 1980. What is it?
82. I think.
82. Yeah. So we're talking like. This is all new. They're all like experimenting, and right. The power supply is weak as anything. So when you access the floppy drives, the CRT wobbles.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, it like really draws the power, and they're so flaky. They just fall over, and
But that's why we love them.
That is why we have them. Yeah, we love them because of it. If they were reliable, and
what would be the point?
I would only have one.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah. Okay, well, Stephen, thanks ever so
Cheers,
much.
thanks a lot.
And we'll see you soon, mate.
Yeah,
Thank
see you next
Cheers.
year.
Ta-ra.